Hello. It looks like the stream has started now. So I'm testing a new device stand for live streaming. So there could be, I'm seeing a little bit of shake, but I will try to adjust this as we go. It's a new stand and the device is kind of balanced off on an arm. And I'm also not working on the most stable surface here, so I apologize. This may change later. This is just a brief introduction for what I would like to be a series of discussions on astrotheology. That is where study of the stars, the skies, the heavens, as they might be known, influence theology or faiths or people's understanding of gods or other types of divine figures. I'm not, how should I say, I'm not endorsing any specific belief, or I don't intend to in these discussions. That is, I'm not saying anyone should believe in any one interpretation of astrotheology, but I think it an interesting topic. So I enjoy the study of these interpretations. So here you can see I have some books that may feature in these discussions. Here, let me use this as a pointer. Here, this is Hamlet's Mill. I believe the authors are Giorgio. Is that right? I'll just look. Yeah, Giorgio di Santillana, and I think Hertha von Deschen. So that is, I guess I would say, in the topic of astrotheology, like a iconic or important work. These are some others. They range from more, I guess, not rare, but older historical works and newer works. Like, for example, this book by John McHugh is only from 2021, so maybe like a year ago. And we have some books by David Werner Matheson. These are not all of the books. I have others collected in digital format, so I may find a way to show or at least reference those if I do get to them. Okay, I'm just gonna like sort of try and move my camera here. Oh, sorry, forgive me. So here, this is, let me focus. So I don't know if you can like see this whole page here. Let me find where my focus place is. But so this is just a printout from text. I think it's actually just like text that you can find somewhere like on Wikipedia. Here, I'll put it down here. Or move down now. So I believe that this is a printout of what you can find online if you search under Babylonian star catalogs, or specifically one that is titled Mul Apine. I think that would be spelled M-U-L and then A-P-I-N, which is apparently, so like that would be from Sumeria, those words, the Mul Apine, as far as I have seen or read. I mean, I don't actually know Sumerian. And I guess scholars, they name the document from whatever is the first words. I mean, it wasn't a separate title, like how we might have a separate title for a book today, but so Mul Apine is just the name of the constellation the Plow, which I believe is kind of similar to the constellation today known as the Triangle. I think it's actually like Triangulum in like Latin or something, but it's the Triangle. And that was the first on the list. But you can maybe see, have made various, let's try and focus. It's not doing very well. But I've made various handwritten notes, and then flipping over, I've added like other various handwritten notes. So that's one reference. We can go online, we can find these old star lists. Another reference, I'm sorry if I was reaching there, is this guide to the stars. And I'll show the credit for this specific one. You can, oh, I'm sorry, I touched the camera. You can find other things like this. Let's see if I can focus this here. Oh, maybe not. And it says, copyright 2019 Ken Gron, published by Ken Press, kenpress.com. So that's this specific guide to the stars. This one is for Northern Hemisphere, and it will say like latitude. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have really good focus on this device. Maybe I'll have to change that in the future. But it's saying latitude, excuse me, latitude 30 to 60 degrees north. So that's where I am. Other people, different parts of the world, you would have a different perspective and view. For example, if you were from the Southern Hemisphere. But there are ways to convert and understand, like, the same stars can be seen from Earth, not at the same time or from the same hemisphere, but, I mean, they are pretty much mapped so that we can understand the northern and southern constellations as we understand them today. So then here we just have some, like, regular school and office supplies. You know, you always need those. But here are some useful books. This one is The Stars by H.A. Rey. This is a book that I would recommend. Subtitle, A New Way to See Them. You can see on the cover in the background there's various constellations. This book, I'll just like flip through it. Like, I don't want to like spoil it. But like, for example, there's, according to this system by the author, H.A. Rey, that is the outline of Virgo, how they would perceive the stars, connect the dot style. How? Because we can actually look on here, and there's other maps that, which direction am I going here? Okay, here. So here, okay, that's the star Spica, which is where the ear of grain, or the hand holding the ear of grain, is usually portrayed in drawings. And you can see they're just making a rough outline. They're not making connect the dots like stick figure person. They're on this type of map. They're just saying these stars are connected. But I think, and if you look at other sources online, you'll probably see that so like in history times, the way that they would understand the constellations, right, is there's these particular stars that seem to rise together or set together, and they sort of connect the dots or imagine a picture around them, and those stars are the constellation. But my understanding is that for contemporary modern times, although many people still have the understanding, I'm sorry, I see the camera was shaking again. Many people have the understanding of these kind of like stick figures or like artworks around the set of stars. The technical definitions that people use is just like this polygon, like an irregular polygon of the sky. I don't have a good image of that to show now, but I think if you go, I mean, there are other sources, but if you just like quickly search the name of a constellation on Wikipedia, it's usually one of the first artworks. You'll see like a shaded gray or an unshaded and then a shaded out portion, and it'll be like an irregular polygon, and all the stars inside of that are generally in that constellation. So whatever's in that shape that they define, and today, is the constellation, including the specific named and lettered, like they use like I believe a Greek letter naming conventions. So the whole polygon is the constellation as I get it, but then there's like specific named and lettered stars that are the traditional, like these are the bright stars, usually brighter stars that the traditional art was based on. Sorry, that was a little this is another H.A. Ray book. It's related to the stars. This one is Find the Constellations. It's more about like where, like here's, I'll just show like as a sample. It's like if you stand, at this place in this month. It's kind of like the book version of this type of device where you can turn it to like different months and times, and it'll be like that's what the sky, at these latitudes and hemisphere will be at that time. So this is a decent tool I find to show, like when I'm reading one of the books and I want to compare to like how we have the map today, I can just reference this. Although yes, I would recommend using like if somebody seriously wants to like study this, like use some astronomy software if you're able, like I think Stellarium. I think that one's free. I have it on another device. And I'm sorry, I just got distracted by something. Yeah, Stellarium is a good software, and with that you can put in the date. And this could even be like a date, like you could say like, oh, in 2000 BC or in 20 or BC, or like you could put like the year 2600 in the future, like, and it will calculate what stars would be at that time, the ecliptic of that date, because with the different movements of the Earth, the view does change. Like certain constellations will not always be right on the horizon, or I'm sorry, I'm like a little stammering over this, but the constellations like through the year will move. Like in the winter in a certain hemisphere, maybe you see Orion, but in the summer maybe you don't. You'd see, another view of the star at night, because obviously the stars are still there. We only generally see them at night, so it's just in that certain time of the year you're only at night able to see those certain stars. So through the year you get the cycle of stars, but then also from year to year, from like millennia to millennia, there's also a change in how those stars are seen at which time of year. So that plays into things that we would see like in like Hamlet's Mill again. They talk about stuff like that. And he kind of reached to put these over here. Probably disturbing the camera again. Sorry. Okay, so then let me see if I can just move this down a little bit. So then something else, I just have like this is a notebook that's some of my art on the cover there. I just have like a sketchbook, like for example, this is the mill. It's a little wonky, the perspective here, but so in the discussion of like Hamlet's Mill, which may come up, this is like my understanding of like one version of what the mill would look like. And there's like just some other sketches that I make in there. I also use, can we focus this? Okay, so here's like my set of like handmade flashcards. So I also, okay, so originally, okay, these are hand-drawn flashcards. They're on like, you know, it's an index card on the back. So for, I think, all the zodiac constellations plus some of the main constellations that are around them, I made these flashcards for myself to just like easily refer to the shapes. And for example, this is Andromeda. And I think I can show you how, when you see it, I might have turned it so that one's not show. Okay, let me turn this again. Oh, sorry. Where's my... I was just looking for the pencil to point with, but I think I've lost it. Let's get a different one. Sorry. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So here, let's see if I can get it closer. No, it's not. Okay, so they're showing Pegasus Square. This is the head of Andromeda / Medusa. And then in this version, they're just drawing like these lines. They're not drawing like, and her arm goes over here, and her other arm goes over here. And so if you remember, see how there's also these stars out here that aren't connected by their lines? So on my flashcard, it's the same stars. So out here, that's that star that connects to the Pegasus Square. Here's some of the stars further down, which I have drawn a line. Well, on this card here, you would see that as vertical. But it's like in the sky, it's like, you know, it's like turning around. Oh. And then, so I've drawn like, here's, you know, where the arm reaches out. And in the Andromeda myth, some of you might know, she's chained up, like, I think, I'm trying to remember if it's to a rock, because I know Prometheus was chained to a rock, but she is tied or chained up at some point in the myth. So her arms are outstretched. So there's one that goes over here, and then like one that goes down here. And then you can see where the legs are. So this is a reclining figure. So this, like, I think is the same as we saw in the other version. But I've drawn this leg out here because if we turn it this way and we understand it as like a figure like this, I see this as like she could be a seated figure. So this becomes her lap, and then like the hem of her, like her skirt, like this is her skirt here, and this becomes like her small waist. And then she has shoulders up here, and she's doing something with her arms, and then, you know, this is the top of her head. And then this star can be seen as there's something sitting at her foot. And like here, this would be like the hem of her skirt. And she's seated in a way that this is her lap. So for each constellation, there might be like different views. So let me find one that has multiple views. I've got a bunch of them. Oh, okay, here's an example. So here's how Virgo is in some ways depicted, where there's like a head. There's, I think this star up here would be Vendematrix, reaching for the vine. This star would be Spica, reaching for the ear of wheat. There's like, this is a stick figure version. There's like the torso, and then there's legs. I would add that in some I've drawn a large kind of bubblehead here, but in some versions, like the top of the head is here, and then these upper stars become some kind of a headdress, some kind of ornament on the head. And you can also imagine this figure standing this way, although like a lot of times in the sky, it's like coming in, and it's like, when they rise, and it's like, and that also changes from year to year. But here, so look, I have two Virgo cards. So the next one is a different, so this would be facing the north. So a figure in profile. So here's the head. I've actually drawn in a more squared shape neck area. The arm is reaching for Vendematrix still. I believe down here is Spica. So like in the previous version, the torso would have gone this way. But here, the arm actually becomes her backside. And we have like the larger thigh or skirt area. And then the feet. Oh, sorry. My card just slipped me. Gotta hold on. So in this, it's more like it's Virgo, so it's usually depicted or not depicted, but conceptualized as female, although they're just stars with like connect the dot lines. They don't actually have any gender, but like from the myths, we would associate them sometimes with different gendered figures. So yeah, but that's the same. It's actually the same stars, but I'm saying this one is more like a front face. Like it's the torso and she's reaching out to either side. This is more like, if you look at it this way, she might even be an older woman that has like a different posture. And there's just the same stars. You can draw the outline a different way. And we can see that happens. I was looking if I have another example flipping through the cards, but I'm not sure. Oh, Gemini might be one. Yeah, so here's, so Gemini appears in the sky this way. And on this particular version, I made a note that this is from like a long time ago, but in some myths, not in some myths, but in some cultures or time periods, our constellation, like all these stars that are considered Gemini today, was like, here's the big twins, that would be Castor and Pollux, but then these stars were also twins. So you get actually 4 different figures or 4 different somethings. Whereas it's the same stars, but here it's just the 2. The Castor and Pollux heads, they're possibly holding hands or reaching out to each other. There's just the 2 separate torsos, and then they both have their legs down here. So yeah, is it separate figures or 2 very tall figures? So I'm just saying there's different ways that we can envision these things. Here's an example, like, okay, this is my flashcard. So when these flashcards, sometimes I am drawing where I put the lines from another source, such as like HRA, But in some cases, I'm making my changes how I think it would look, and that also may be different than what you see in a historical star atlas. So I'm not saying like, oh, I have proof this is the correct way. There's not a correct way. There are different ways. Different cultures could look at the same area of the sky and imagine different things. And it's curious, not always, because like you'll look at some cultures and they'll be like, they didn't even group the stars in the same way. But in some cases, they did group the stars in the same way. Like, for example, if you would say like, oh, our stars that are the constellation Aries in a certain culture was a human figure that was a worker. Like, it was like your farmer or your hired hand. So they were envisioning, I can even probably find that one. But anyway, I was just trying to say that they can look at the same area of the sky, but have a very different interpretation. And I know I have an Aries, but I'm a little bit discombobulated. Oh, here it is. I'll just put these back. Right, so here's my drawing of Aries, which is a little different than some others. This is most close probably to the H.A. Ray version than what you would see in some older star atlases. But my understanding, and these are like where I've drawn in, these are some dim stars down here. So when you see it on a different star chart, it might just be like this line here is mostly what people show. And also in history, these stars here, these three where I have a tail, that was a separate constellation, like a bee or a fly or a flower. There was something else here with the ram. Oh yeah, there it is. The triangle constellation is pretty close. Anyway, what I was saying is like they might see it as like the same stars, but they'll imagine there's a person standing here. Like maybe these are the 2 feet, and this up here is like the head and arms. Or they could even see it like this way, where like maybe here's the feet and here's the arms doing something. But our version is like, oh, it's a ram. Yeah, so just stuff like this. But then I was looking at Capricorn to show another example of that. Where here's where you can see there's a goat. It's like here's a horn. There's sort of a triangle shape for the head. And then the legs, this like shape here is the goat, and I put like little tail, right? And then I'm trying to remember, these stars may or may not be part of the constellation, like the irregular polygon. I'm trying to remember, or one of the ones that's next to it. I'll have to check on that. And then this is the southern fish. Fomalhaut would be that bright star there that it might be used to find this in the sky. So it's the goat and the fish, the goat fish. Sometimes you'll see they'll draw the lines out in a different way, where it'll be like it's like a mermaid goat, like there's a fish tail and then a goat top. But how I see this is, I don't know if I can focus better. If you imagine this here is like the chest, like the pectoral muscles of a human figure, and this is like the torso, and this is like the arm that's we see on the left, their right arm, and then over here is something else, and then this is the feet. But if you think about it, and then this becomes like a horn or a headdress. This is just how I see it. I mean, yes, there's the goat and the fish and something else, but I think of it like, what if you see how there's like also, this is in the part of the sky that's considered like the sea. So if you think of someone like in the water or taking a bath, you don't see their legs. You see their torso sticking out and you see their feet sticking out. That's how I'm like imagining that this is like a figure taking a bath or bathing. But yeah, so there's like a lot, it's like a lot of interpretations. So yeah, so these books, other books, just general thoughts on astrotheology is what I would hope to discuss in the series. So thanks for listening. I think the book that I'm actually going to start with, just because I read it recently, is the John McHugh book. So there'll be a separate stream and video for that. Thanks.